Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the place where we like to go beyond the story, to explore the craft, the story. Sorry, beyond the review. That's what I'm trying to say here. Anyway, we like to get into the craft, the story, and the meaning of the films we watch today. And of course, as you can see on the screen there, I am looking at, we're looking at Naked Singularity tonight. And of course, it's going to be hard to look at this film, to get into it without the best co-host, a movie podcast co-host, streaming to our dozens of subscribers, can have Mr. Jim Chaboyko. How you doing, my friend? Oh,
we're champs, baby! Woo! 2 in a row. The thing I like about this is a W can be backwards and forwards. It's what do you call it?
It works that way.
No. Yeah. Anyway. How you? Yeah, no, I'm just a little spaced out from the game still.
Apparently.
Yeah, well, it was a hard one. It was. I did not think, they were down by about 12 points going into the fourth, and did not think they had a chance. I'm just glad we won last year. So it was the first time we any team had done back-to-backs in quite a while in the league, and yeah, so it's pretty great. Probably right now about 2 kilometers that way, or a mile, there's a bunch of people gathering on Portage in Maine.
Oh, for sure.
Great intersection. And that's something I did last year. I asked my son, well, first of all, we have this show, but my son's a little occupied with studies and that sort of thing too. So, yeah, no, otherwise I expect a crash pretty soon, like an energy crash. 'Cause that was I feel like I just defused a bomb. Red wire, blue wire, I don't know. But
of course.
Yeah. Well, it was overtime, right? And you don't get too many Grey Cups in overtime. And yeah, I was sort of conversing with Brian. See, this is how nutty I am. Brian, our friend in LV, and yeah, he was evidently watching parts of it. So that was very cool. But yeah,
cool.
So busy day, eventful day.
Yes, sir.
How about you? How are you doing?
You know what? In the grand scheme of things, pretty damn good. I had an interesting weekend. For those of you who don't know, sorry guys, Jim, I have started producing, kind of a side hustle, producing other people's live streams. And this weekend I started, and this afternoon was our friend Curtis Judd from Curtis Judd and Curtis Judd Audio. He interviewed a wonderful dialogue editor. She works for Nickelodeon. Woman's name is Olivia Kendrick. Anyway, I managed to put that interview together and work with Curtis. And I know it's like, but it was a banger of an episode, and I'm really quite ended up, like you can tell, his chat was engaged and everyone was happy, and we all learned a lot from Austin. And most importantly, it seemed like my client Curtis was happy. So I'm like, everybody wins.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And Curtis is great. So
he is. You know what? It's been a great. I started just by watching his stuff because I wanted to learn from him, but to grow to where we have a professional relationship that we've developed over a couple of years has been really cool. And I have to say, Jim, to you and to our subscribers and to those who watch that maybe aren't subscribed, but they're still, it is, I think that I've been able to develop that is firmly, like, one of the most important things has been our show here, Jim, in developing those skills. Anyway, and I guess that also means, you can actually find my email in the about in the channel. I will feel free to email me if you're like, boy, I could use some of that interview special sauce, a little creative special sauce, little producer special sauce. I am more than happy to help out for a fee. So there you go. That's how I'm doing, my friend.
Awesome.
Listen, why don't we've got the chat up. Why don't we quickly, we've only got a couple of folks in the chat right now. Of course, half of it's because it is Grey Cup here in Canada. Some of our regular chatters are Canadians. I do want to, why don't we give a shout out though to a man who is at least our good friend, Dragon Movie Guy, another football fan. He actually came out in the chat right off the top. Welcome to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Grey Cup Championship postgame show. Woot woot. Good to see you here, DMG.
Woohoo. Thanks for your support.
And well, a little teaser. Tomorrow, Jim, myself, DMG, and our good friend Catherine, who's been on the show before, becoming a bit of a regular guest co-host. We're all going to be chatting tomorrow evening. Specifics to be announced by tomorrow morning, somewhere around 8 or 9 ish Central Standard Time, talking about the Golden Globe nominations, which are still happening.
Still a thing.
It is.
Still an award show that exists.
Yes, it is.
Evidently.
So we're going to talk tomorrow. We're going to break down the nominations, the major nominations. Although it is the Golden Globes, it's not like they wasted the time with the technical nonsense.
Yes.
And I'm just being a smart aleck. So we'll have some fun chatting about that. Stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed already, this would be the time to make sure you get notified. And we got one more person who's just jumped into the chat.
Yeah, I see.
Our man Ahmed. How you doing, Jelly Duck 100? Good to see you here. All right, Jim. I guess it's time now to move into the movie, eh?
Certainly.
Oh, wait. You know what?
You were going to talk about something else.
There was something I wanted to bring up.
Yep.
I forgot all about this. Jim.
I thought that was a test.
No, it was strictly me, dropping the ball a little. So, Jim, you remember when we did The Harder They Fall, that Netflix flick? I think it was November 9th was, I think, our show. Anyway, got a great, and I'm going to see if I can't bring it up. I may not be able to jump it onto, maybe I can't get it onto the screen. Bear with me, everyone. Anyway, as I'm looking for it, I will, there we go. Anyway, he made a comment on it, and read it verbatim, or at least a part of it. But he made a comment regarding our, okay, here we go. How can you guys give such a lengthy, and the guy's name is Slag Will. I'm assuming it's a guy. Don't know for sure, but I'm assuming. This is what I'm working with right now. So, how can you guys give such a lengthy analysis without researching if the film's characters were actually true to the opening statement? All 10 of the characters were really true figures in U.S. history. He actually includes a couple of links, which is awesome. It's all on, and I'll put a link to that show, or I might even just cut and paste or something. I'll make some reference in a pinned comment. Anyway, they're all really true figures in U.S. history. He refers to the movie town Redwood, the one that our bad guy gang is shaking down to protect, little protection racket, was named after the actual town of Greenwood, Tulsa, which of course was, the first time Americans actually bombed their own in a horrific act of racist, white supremacist racist violence. One of America's most prosperous Black Wall Streets, destroyed by an angry white mob from the adjacent town, gives historical relevance to the colorful juxtaposition of the two in the film. And it's absolutely, you know what, you do see, you can feel that resonance, right? In the way the community's like, but we've built this. Well, they're coming, but I can protect you. But I would say it refers to an angry white mob. That was such an organized effort with the police. They literally got a plane in the air bombing Greenwood. It was just
biplane or something.
Yeah.
Beep, 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 beep,
That's what they had at the time, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, a horrific act. And what mob, like the January 6th crowd was a mob. Yes, there was a mob organized, focused, a focused mob, let's say. Anyway, he actually has another where he kind of breaks down some of the basic facts of these characters, and this is something I didn't know, but it was you learn more, right? You can always learn more. Rufus Buck was half black, half white, or half black, half native, half indigenous, and apparently his gang was all what would have at the time been mixed, or imagine another racist reference to anyone who isn't pure. Anyway, and then I saw pictures, like even just his reference and pictures, and it's like that Rufus was an indigenous, like you see it, you could see this guy in a cowboy hat in rural Manitoba, like it was like I didn't know that. The reason I am noting this, and I think it's worthy of review for folks who, want to, take a look at his comments. And then I answered in a couple of areas, like partly just, we're a couple of middle-aged chumps doing this as a hobby. Pre-show research isn't necessarily, we'd all have like more time, but in the end,
you want more than 2 hours? Slag will. Is our show not lengthy enough for you?
Yeah. Well, I kind of see what he's getting at. And he did, like, we went back and forth, all good, like great engagement. Again, Slag will, awesome commenter. Even if we could get into a debate, we can quibble on a few things, but who cares? But it did make me think of, I may not have done it for this one before the show, but like most of these historical films, and I still praise, he doesn't agree, but I still praise the way the filmmakers in Harder They Fall went, these people existed, right up front, hey, maybe the story's BS, but these people existed. They're not figments of imagination. And I really enjoyed that. And I don't know about you, Jim, I did go down a couple of click holes. I didn't know about the Rufus Buck half indigenous thing, but I did go down a couple of click holes. These people had very colorful histories. They're really stylized interpretations of them on film. Like just, okay, she's not, no. But who cares? And this is my point. And I appreciate that some people say, well, it's never the way it really was. It's not even, we're watching a movie and it's not even a documentary. And even documentaries can be problematic, let's say. Yeah. Jim, what I think any movie that says, here, we're going to talk about something that was inspired or based upon, or even, hey, these people existed, we're going to play with their story. I'm beforehand or afterwards, 9 times out of 10, I'm on the internet right away.
Yeah.
Looking it up. I want to know, well, how did that play out? Or did that person exist? Oh, it was an amalgam and so I think we can, in a way, I've started to lean on this more and more, is like, you know what, for all those folks who are like, I can't believe this is not historically accurate. Jesus Christ, they're talking about something in the past. It will trigger interest, and this film is so stylized, the biggest fool might go, well, that's what I saw in the movie, but most people will either, well, it was a good movie, or I want to learn more, right? And maybe giving films a hard time for historical inaccuracies, and I'm even going to say on the science fiction stuff where the astrophysicist, it never would have happened this way. It's like, why anyone's watching your stuff is because they want to know how it actually happened. And the movie triggered that interest. Mm-hmm. No one was clicking on your deep black hole deep dive until there was Interstellar, is what I'm saying. And I think that is something to be said. And one of the things, like Slag Wool is talking about this and hey, why didn't you do that? Because I don't know about you, all I thought about was the battle one, the Forgotten Battle, where I did do my early research because it involved Canada, and versus this one where I'm like, I don't like the genre anyway. Okay, well, we're doing it, So I did my pre-research, which is why I was able to rant quite a bit. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to highlight Slagwell's comments. It was interesting.
Yeah, it's always good to get that that kind of engagement. You can do it respectfully if you disagree, or if you find that we're dropping the ball on something. I mean, part of the thing is I'm willing. Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm willing to do the research, but that could be its own live stream podcast. The way in which a movie differs from the real documented evidence. You can go on forever. These things aren't documentaries. It's a pretty broad brush. It's like taking stories of African American Western tales and turning it into a graphic novel. I mean, you're not going to, most of it's going to be flourish. You're not generally going to get bogged down in the details unless you're Chester Brown writing about Louis Riel in a graphic novel and give it footnotes, which I have not seen too many times before. And props to Chester Brown. But, it sort of reminds me of the whole Brad Pitt versus Bruce Lee fight in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and the people that were foaming at the mouth, angry with the thought that Brad Pitt would have beaten Bruce Lee or been able to, get a hand on him. And it's just like, folks, this is made up. It's a Tarantino movie. Hitler was not murdered in a movie. It was not assassinated in a movie theater. He takes great liberty with these things. And it's sort of, it's that kind of thing. It's very much an interpretation of a character. I'm sure the person that Zazie Beetz played did not look like Zazie Beetz. Probably wasn't even her age, but it's sort of, but on your point about bringing attention to a historical subject, there's a really great movie on Canopy called 1 Million Dubliners. It's from about 2014, I think. And it's about the big cemetery in Dublin. And Michael Collins is buried there. And there was taken? Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson, I believe, played Michael Collins.
Yes, he did.
And there
was a good movie
because of that movie that go to this day and visit his grave. And there was one woman that used to come from France, either on the day of his death or the day of his birth, I forget which, to lay flowers on the grave because of that movie. So movies do work in that way. They bring attention to often forgotten subjects, and African Americans have been not represented super well. If
or
this is
at
their
all,
turn,
which I think
at
was
all,
one of the
yeah,
great things about this movie. And the
yeah,
point
yeah.
of it, they existed. There were
Hmm.
people, there were there were African Americans or black people in the West. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
So let them, let them have a bit of fun with it. I'm okay with that.
yeah.
But it's not a documentary,
Yeah.
and it's not a historical treatment of it necessarily in the academic sense of the word. So
Yeah. I want to shout out Jelly Duck. You're absolutely right. Griselda Day is a bot. There is a bot in the chat.
oh my gosh,
uh, in DMG. Wasn't George Clooney Michael Collins in the Lawyer movie?
no, that was Michael Clayton.
Yeah, it was Michael Clayton.
Am I right about
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Get
you
your
are
Michael
right.
straight.
You,
Just call
you know
every
who
movie
we're
Michael.
talking about in the chat, right? He does add to what we were talking about, and I want to. He says tough topics, but good dialogue can always pay dividends as long as it's a dialogue, not simultaneous monologues. Or like I did, what was a couple shows ago, Jim? I think we were with Catherine. Yeah, and you said something. I don't know, whatever it was. I wasn't fully paying attention to you, but obviously enough to repeat what you said about how we choose films, perfect, almost verbatim, as though it just occurred to me. So it's almost like you're hearing it in stereo, with a big delay. But I want to emphasize, I think in some ways Slagwell and I do not, there's a couple of things, although who knows, maybe face to face, it's always tough when you're writing it back and forth in a comment section. That said, I thought he was, he made an interesting point, a worthwhile point to discuss. It got me thinking further about some of the stuff we've done. And even as you're talking about it, Jim, maybe I'll try and find a guest who can help us with this. Because one of those things where it's like, it still grinds my gears when I think of Argo.
Oh yeah.
Ben Affleck's take on what we still here in Canada refer to as the Canadian caper.
What Canadians?
Those cowards, we saved them from. Anyway, that. But I think it might be interesting to have a show dedicated to that. We'll pick a few historical films and talk about it from that lens, but maybe have an expert with us. All right. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I really just felt it was worth highlighting and praising Slagwell for bringing it up and giving us an opportunity to talk about it a bit more. And, that's fantastic. Okay, let's, I think it's time to talk about this film. If I can just find out where I'm going here. No. That's what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing, Jim. I'll figure it out. Okay. We are talking about, we're watching Naked Singularity tonight. All right. Here's the log line I wrote, because the log line on IMDb was, ridiculous. A young New York City public defender, burnt out by a corrupt system and on the brink of disbarment, decides to relieve one of his drug-dealing clients of millions of dollars. The movie, Jim, directed by Chase Palmer, written by Chase Palmer and David Matthews, stars John Boyega, Olivia Cooke, Bill Skarsgård, Ed Skrein, Linda Lavin, and Tim Blake Nelson in 2 scenes. It was, it's, Jim, for all the other things that were added on, it really is a heist movie. That's what I would call it. This is a heist movie. Now, as far as the social nutrition checklist goes, you know what? Let's talk about the reframe stamp. Would it qualify, Jim? No, it would not. Is it union made? Well, as a matter of fact, it is.
Oh, hey,
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Win some, you lose some.
brothers,
Would it pass the
sisters.
Would it pass the Bechdel test? Yeah, that's a big fat no on that one too.
Mm-mm.
And then, of course, last but certainly not least, is it class conscious? Now, since I have not once referred to, in any way serious terms, only in snarky terms, praxis, or, the Hegelian synthesis, thesis, antithesis, BS. Synthesis. Oh, wait. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. I'm good. You know what, Jim? I think this is a class conscious film, or slightly. I don't know if you can give it full marks, but we really only have a on or off, and I think it's worth giving this an on. Although you may disagree with me, and we can talk about that more in the meeting or in the quick review. But that leads us to, based on my scorecard, 50%.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, which is
anyway,
yeah,
not bad, eh?
not bad. No.
Yeah, I think it's all right. Why don't we get into the quick review?
Sure.
Good with you?
Yeah. Oh, you want
All
me
right.
to start?
Yeah. Why don't you go, Jim?
So yeah,
lay down.
To borrow a line from the Simpsons, I can think of two things wrong with this title when they're talking about the naked lunch. But kind of an odd title, and I sort of suspected that there would be some, even the hints you get from the poster and such. That'd be a little bit of an odd movie. But kind of a small movie. It's a heist movie. Yeah, the heist really didn't kind of show up until fully the third act. I guess they planted the seeds fairly early, but it was a slow moving heist movie, I guess. In terms of the four leads, one thing that I thought was interesting, all playing Americans, English, Swedish, which is, I don't know what that's saying about the stock of American actors available. This was not a COVID film movie. That's one thing I sort of suspected, because it didn't feel like it felt like a quieter, smaller, less populated movie. Not a lot of, crowd scenes, that sort of thing. So I sort of suspected that it might have been, but apparently it was filmed in 2019. Yeah, so it was, it's about a young lawyer, young defense lawyer, and who seems to not be having a good run. And in spite of it all, he decides to take on the case of the girl. I'll just go a little bit extra for this one client of his. Bit of a slow burn. I immediately thought, where is this heading? And I had no idea. It's based on a Spanish writer's book called The Naked Singularity. And I suspect the book is
okay.
I suspect the book is a little more based on the theories they talk about, specifically what John Boyega's Cassie character talks about with his with Tim Blake Nelson, who appears to be his landlord.
The sci-fi multiverse stuff.
Yeah. And now, having said that, I don't think they brought that to full fruition. I think they touched upon it a little bit. I still sort of didn't get the connection, although I did like the occasional power outages that led to certain, the players, the actors sort of changing direction or changing plans, that sort of thing. So I didn't exactly know what to make of this movie. Another interesting thing is there was a lot of violence, but very, very little of it was gun-based violence. We had swords, we had tear gas, it was almost like they were avoiding guns. There were some guns, but not tons of it. Sword is fairly prominent, as you can tell from the poster there. But it felt like a smaller picture. John Boyega, doing an American accent. I feel that I've seen him do this kind of thing before, and that's okay. I'd like to see, see a little bit more range from him in the near future. But I like him. I thought Olivia Colman was, is that her name? Coleman? No, not Coleman.
Cooke.
Olivia Cooke. Thank you. She was a little bit problematic for me in the sense that they tried to make her out to be a tough cookie, but she was still tripping and falling and struggling, and they even show her in a self-defense class at one point, and she's unable to get away, like, which makes you think, oh, she's obviously going to be able to get away from the baddie, and that doesn't seem to work. So there's some things there that we can talk about. But and Skarsgård provides a little bit of weird Pennywise energy, coked up Pennywise energy, but other than that, yeah.
Shout out to GMD and DMG in the chat. Yep.
Yeah. And then Ed Skrein from, of course, from Deadpool, and he sort of has all the trappings of being a bad guy, but this guy was a kind of a flunky too, and it was hard for me to believe that he got the drop on everyone as he did for most of the movie. But anyway, did I like it? Yeah, I liked it. It was a smaller, like, I liked it. I didn't love it. I wasn't overwhelmed. It was an odd one, a nice little odd one. It felt like a pet project almost. I'd be interested to hear what you think, but it was good. I don't think it deserved the 29% that Rotten Tomatoes has given it recently, and I also don't remember it coming out. Like, apparently it came out over the summer and
limited, like
nothing about
nano
it,
release. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just I guess a smaller picture, but not a bad one. Kyle Mooney from SNL has a smaller role as a Hasidic Jewish person. So that's kind of interesting too. But anyway, what did you think?
You know what, Jim? I liked this movie. Maybe I'm a little more enthusiastic than you are. Although I got to admit, in the second act, I was like, oh, is this gonna, for myself? Yeah, they said all the players. I thought Ed Skrein, and if it wasn't, and the way I got involved, I got emotionally involved with all the characters. By the midpoint, I mean, Ed Skrein as this just obvious, greasy, kind of grimy punk hustler, petty drug dealer, kind of no good Nick. I felt his, and part of what triggers it, really he is the catalyst for the whole movie. And as he gets into people's lives, and that's really what's going on here, he gets into their lives. And I felt the, oh, don't, okay, this is where it all goes sideways. And his general creepiness and his, I felt afraid for the others when he was around, you know what? And so, yeah, by the midpoint, I was in this movie. Now I say maybe a bit more than you did, Jim, but not, oh, wow, this is genius or this is greatness. And I suspect it's an hour. This movie's an hour and a half. It's 100 minutes. I suspect if some of the other sci-fi gobbledygook was left on the cutting room floor, which was great, that those kind of conversations sort of slowed it down, to a point where I'm like, oh, we could have really eliminated a couple of pieces and got rid of it all, but you still want a movie. You don't want it coming in at 69 minutes. By the end of it, I liked how it was resolved. It does have problems, especially in how Olivia Cooke, whether it was her choice or the direction, like from Chase Palmer, how that character is presented. And you kind of allude to it, and we can get into it more later. That said, she's still very, she's she is still compelling to watch on screen. They were all compelling to watch on screen.
Yeah.
Maybe a little, Bill Skarsgård, a little bit of a, wow, you're a bit of a preppy. Like again, you can see choices made, but they're still interesting to watch. Linda Lavin, I mean, it's like, wow. And the way it presented, we'll talk more about its political position later, but the way it presented the injustice of the justice system, especially putting it in New York City, which is, known worldwide for the grind, not even a purposeful grind. It's Kafkaesque. Like truly, I think Kafkaesque. It's like, well, this is the way it is. We've all known Rikers Island is just it's a horrific, like it's a human rights violation, the whole jail. And, New York City and New York State, well, you do. The way the police, treat anyone that isn't white. What are you gonna do? Cops are racist. I enjoyed that. You get upset the way the characters are getting upset. It was a nice little movie. I like the way you referred to it many times as small little, well, but it's not a huge cast. It's pretty straightforward. And it was only when you mentioned it, Jim, yeah, you're right. Not a lot of violence, not a lot of bloodshed, but in a way where it's like, oh, I can feel the tension then, instead of it being tension relieved, but me feeling grossed out and a little sick. So when we do see violence, we're seized of it, So in the end, I thought it was pretty good. So there's my quick take.
I guess, another thing that I wanted to mention in my quick review, and I always end up forgetting one or two things. It starts off with a very "and justice for all," with Al Pacino.
Yeah.
A very "and justice for all" feel, and then it sort of takes a little bit of a turn, and it's almost like Justice for All directed by a young Terry Gilliam or something to that effect. But I guess instead of little movie,
young, hopeful Terry Gilliam.
Yeah. Not as oppressive.
This isn't. We're not watching Brazil.
No.
There's hints of what it could have been. It could have been a Brazil, but even if it was a Brazil, it's not as dark. Like it just. I
suspect if it took more of the it'd be a whole different kettle of fish if it was taken directly from the novel. But I suspect. I was thinking a little bit of. It made me think of Terry Gilliam today when I was sort of going out and about, and I was thinking, well, The Fisher King is a good example of New York City, the mundane and the sort of the profane, or the just the everyday kind of existence, and the terror of all your fears sort of just lurking in the background. It was sort of a younger cousin of that. I guess instead of a little movie, I could have easily classified it as one of those neat oddball movies that as a teen I might have stumbled on if I stayed up too late and I was watching the Sea Candy first late movie at 1 a.m. or something, and it would be like, oh, what's this? Yeah, there was this movie last night. The guy had like a sword and
They're talking about the multiverse, and hey, we're at this point where all things the Candide reference,
Yeah.
Although I think we're flirting with spoiler zone. So anything else you want to add before that ain't like an automatic hook into spoiler zone?
No, I like to see Linda Lavin still getting work. That's kind of cool. Alice from the 1970s, 1980s sitcom. That's pretty cool. When I saw the cast last week, when I was reading it over there, it's like, what? So that was that was neat. But yeah.
Okay,
no,
let's
just,
move on then, because that's a
moving
reference for. Okay, we're done now. All right, everyone. First, we did wanted DMG is reminding us, and we had him on the show. He did talk about it. Naked Singularity was one of his top 10 August movies, and I think it was the half that we covered that when he came onto the show. So maybe that's where we kind of heard of it, sort of. And then it's like, anyway, moving along. It certainly didn't get a release in Winnipeg. That I can assure you. Okay. Oh, what? And then a reference to Kafkaesque and Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad. All right. We are now, everyone.
In the craft.
The spoiler zone.
Spoiler zone.
Yes, the craft. I don't know, Jim. For myself on this one, I don't know, but yeah, I thought everyone's performances were fine. I think in story, I'll critique all their portrayals. But I did. Notwithstanding the performance, notwithstanding the portrayal, I thought Olivia Cooke was great. And she has, because her, and it could be just as she's not a kid anymore. Like, I want to say, bear with me. All right, no, she's in her late 20s. She's not a kid, though, anymore. And she's able to, like, I felt, this is a young woman older than her physicality, and I bought it. Because usually she's got she's been cast in roles where it's all about her youth and her pluck. That may be an unfair characterization, but I bought it. I bought who she was portraying. I thought Ed Skrein, I did. I was terrified of him. I was like, get this man away. It's like, this is dangerous. And I thought he did achieve that. Linda Lavin just sucking on that straw, it's a cigarette. I enjoyed, most of the main cast portrayals. The only one I could have done without was Tim Blake Nelson's character, and even his performance in that. It's like, you're not crazy enough. Shouldn't it? I'm not getting a vibe of this is this nut, this intelligent, knowledgeable nut. So, but that could also be a story issue as well. As far as the look of the film, Jim, limited budget, not like a super no money thing. But they decided, well, we're gonna set it in real New York, and we're gonna spend the money on the talent, which is a fine choice. There was a moment though. There's a tattoo on her. It would be her right shoulder. We actually can see the shine. There's a moment. I think it's when her and John Boyega's character, Cassie, are in bed together, where you can actually see the shine on it, where it's like, hey, that's a stick-on. I mean, all of these movie tattoos are stick-ons, right? They're all, but you can see it there. And it was like, ooh, that shows budget, and that was only one moment. The sound did what it was supposed to. It was indifferent. At no time did I can't say, wow, they really did a great job at setting tone, but I was emotionally involved. I did feel the tension. So I maybe indifference too harsh, and the sound design, the soundtrack were enough for me to, kind of go, oh, this is kind of cool. costumes, costume design, production design was all, I don't know, Jim, the one maybe, because there's a bit of a hint of hard boiled in this, and maybe they could have done better with that, but it's a tough one, right? Like you got to make choices. So let's say it's not worthy of praise, but it's not worthy of criticism either. Professionals kind of going, okay, we're gonna make every dollar count, and so it was fine.
Yeah.
Dragon movie guy's favorite word out of my mouth. Fine. The production design was fine. The the sets are fine. Everything was fine. Again, though, it wasn't bad because I was never taken out of it except for that one bit with the tattoo. So I don't know. What about you? What do you think there, my friend?
Just talking about craft here, I guess if I have any misgivings about the movie, it involves the story. So the craft was fine for me. I saw, I guess, in Boyega's performance, I've seen elements of, Finn from Star Wars, and the kind of a young guy. I'm not quite I'm a big deal around here, but sort of getting. I think his character.
I was the name that locked this up.
Yeah,
I'm the star here.
Well, also the line in Star Wars where he tells Han Solo that I'm kind of a big deal, and so Han Solo starts calling him big deal.
Okay.
as a character, but that's a good point too. He's a 26-year-old. Well, that's more story, but yeah. So I got notes from him that I've sort of seen before, and I enjoy his performances. I felt he was. I sort of appreciate him. In small acts, quite a bit better as the sort of the overwhelmed young police officer, but not overwhelmed, but police officer with a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But the rest of the cast is fine. I sort of don't get the connection between him and his friend Dane, the coked up Bill Skarsgård there.
Yeah.
It didn't seem super organic. I guess they work together, from time to time, or they're both.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up in the story part myself.
Yeah, but it started well. You're into it. I'm trying to think of elements of craft. As I said, most of my criticisms have to do with story, but it moved well. The music.
Okay, well, why don't we move?
Didn't really,
okay, yeah.
It didn't really stand out. And I'm just trying to think if there were any shots. New York did look a little bit different at parts in terms of the cinematography.
Hello.
I think it was kind of a nice treat. They were sort of offshore, and they were maybe on Governor's Island at the very end, or someplace near there, or maybe that area in Brooklyn that's right on the water. But yeah, I mean, it was craft was fine. I didn't really have any problems with that. Yeah.
You say anything, fine. Yeah, I'm 99% there with you. Like I said, I think Ed Skrein did a great job. Okay. On that note, why don't we then let's move on to story.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to start, or am I?
Yeah. Why didn't you start, Jim?
So one of my main things, and in movies you have to have characters that make bad decisions and that are motivated by stupid reasons, or else you wouldn't have movies. Movies are about conflict, internal and external.
Well, and especially a heist movie, a crime movie.
Heist movie, yeah.
You can't be. Yeah. Oh, that's a perfectly reasonable choice to make.
Yeah, yeah. So with that being said, some of the characters here make, and the Olivia Cooke's character of Leah just makes dumb decision after dumb decision, and she's like, as I said before, she's supposed to be a kind of a tough cookie with a sort of a head on her shoulder. She knows how to handle herself, but at the same time, she decides to sleep with Ed Skrein, whose name is Craig in the movie. And that's obviously a bad decision. And he's all sort of toxic masculinity, and also there's not that she cares, she's in a dead end job, but there's a conflict of interest there. I think the way they balance that out is that they said, well, she had a crappy upbringing. She was in the foster system. We're led to understand, and that sort of is the source of a lot of her conflict,
her choices.
Her choices, and she's got a dead end life, and she's not particularly happy with it. But she just makes dumb decision after dumb decision. And then there's little things that did take me out of the movie. She meets up with John Boyega's Cassie for lunch to discuss several things off-site. She goes to the bathroom. She leaves her purse at the table. He's able to go through her purse. But, women take their purses to the table or to the washroom. They don't leave them on the table. But and then at one point,
how can John Boyega... How can Cassie find out that she lied if she took that?
Exactly. Then the other thing is that often treatment of cars, whether it's somebody being in the back seat, the main character, you can always tell the way they film it. Somebody's going to pop up in the back seat. I can't remember that happened in this movie, but to get away from Craig, she jumps into a car at one point, doesn't lock the door, and he gets her quite easily. Yeah. And again, she has taken, Cassie's following her around. He sees her taking self-defense courses. That's that whole setup. That's that fireworks factory. That's the nail gun and lethal weapon. It's okay, she's taking self-defense. So she's obviously going to use that in the future to get away from someone.
Yeah.
And she does bang, bang, and he still nails her. And she's left crawling on the cement to get out of the garage. And I just thought, well, why even have a tough cookie? Why even, why have this sort of skein of sort of a theater term, but this suggestion that she can handle herself when she can't. She's just as bad as whoever in the Creature of the Black Lagoon that drops over the tree root. Like,
yeah.
Like this has been going on
and then perhaps
forever.
fainting.
And then exactly. And then she gets a cattle prod, or she gets the shock from Craig, and then she's rendered completely useless. There's a couple of missed opportunities here. They had the partially open garage door. It would have been interesting to see her get through that. There's a scene where John Boyega is a black Hasidic Jewish person. I would say Jew, but I remember the line from Community saying, "Say the whole word." Anyway, and not enough, I think, is made of that. That could have been an interesting little
and even just some fun with it.
Yeah, one little girl notices him, and I think a couple of guys on the rooftop maybe see him, and that's it. So there's a couple things here, but my main sort of misgivings is that it's almost like a bait and switch. With the Leah character, she's tough, but she doesn't do herself any favors. So that's my main thing. What about you?
Yeah, you know what, Jim? First, regarding the Hasidic Jew, like that experience, they're still dangerous gangsters.
Yeah.
How the heck were these two ding dongs able to scare them all off?
And they run right past him. All they do is shoot a couple tear gas canisters, and they're gone.
And one of the ding dongs has got a sword. Jim, I agree with you completely. Again, and now we can get into the directed portrayal. You're absolutely right. The Ed Skrein's character, what the heck is his name again?
Craig,
thank you. Is way too. It's like we should see more dangerous bumbling. I'm thinking of the two ding dongs in Fargo. Dangerous people, but idiots. Like, you like so many folks who are in jail are like who where there is very little doubt as to their criminality. You know, it's stupidity. It's, you know, it's like, well, you know, if you just didn't stand around there bragging about the knife, or one of their criminal cohorts squealed on them because a drug deal went bad, or whatever, right? Just the stupidity, you know, all the terrible mistakes. A friend of mine used to say, Jim, working in the criminal justice system, and he says, yeah, you know what? Criminals ever just decide, you know what, in the morning they're going to get up, and I get a good night's sleep, and I get up in the morning, and I'm going to go to work. And just to treat crime like a job, we're all screwed, you know.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding that hot take, it's like if he was more bumbling, because, and I wonder if you do see at the end where it's like, yeah, the people with an interest in the millions of dollars of drugs show up because they're not stupid, you know, like the true pros, you know, the folks who can move millions of dollars of drugs somewhere, they're there, like that, you know, the schemer who everything blows up in his face, the ding dong low rent schemer, everything blows up his face at the end. That would have been so much better if we saw that he was just a dangerous fool. You know, he was more, and I'm wondering who is the criminal in Cape Fear, played in the remake by De
Robert
Niro,
De Niro,
but I can't remember the character. Anyway, the bad guy there was a force of menace and smart. You know, like one of those, like he's presented as this menacing but genius, you know, like the evil genius almost, like just smart, cunning, you know, whereas Ed Skrein's character, Craig, it's like, no, you're just a nasty, dangerous piece of work, but it's amazing you haven't been thrown in jail for a decade or two already because you're dumb. Anyway, you're absolutely right. And that was one of the criticisms I did just kind of as I skimmed. I'm with you. I think the 29% is a little harsh. But one of the critics is saying, the Olivia Cooke's portrayal is loaded with a lot of tropes, sexist tropes that we've seen in a million movies. And at no time do they really try and, maybe a little bit at the end, like there's moments, but they didn't seem to really try to deconstruct or flip it around or use it as an interesting point of departure. Maybe would have been better if she was just a little more, competent. Issues physically more competent. It doesn't mean that the bad guy still can't get the best of her, but that she's making it hard on them, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe we needed to spend time with her. If you centered the movie, be interesting to take this basic plot, center it all around her, you know? That'd be kind of cool. So, again, I think Olivia Cooke did well, but whether it was in the writing or the direction, and maybe some of that's on the editing floor, they could be, you know, certain parts are cut that beefed her character up. Who knows, right? I think she ends up like all we needed to do is make her a sex trade worker, and then you've got here's the fallen princess who she's going to be saved by the guy with the sword, or taken down by the piece of crap, or her own poor choices, you know? So I'm with you there on that, Jim. I'm also, even and maybe it's a tough one. Skarsgård was great. I enjoyed him, but you're right. There's not enough setup to explain what the hell he's doing as a public defender. He's so preppy and he's so well dressed versus Cassie. You know, it's like, do you actually need money? This looks like a hobby job.
Yeah.
I mean, if they came out and was like, listen, your parents are rich, like maybe even just a story about, I was like, you know what? I got that. I have one good suit. I'm wearing it, or something,
Yeah.
but he just too tailored, too well presented, and so give us some of that. Kind of say, hey, even where they're arguing about whether or not they're going to do the heist, something, listen, I'm poor, but you aren't. They hint at it a little, but yeah, so you just, in the end, you get a feeling of you are not dressed appropriately for this character.
Mm-hmm.
You are not, and that's a story problem. It's not I'm not blaming the costume designer. I'm saying the director went, no, that's exactly how he should look. His hair should look that way. He should look preppy AF. He should look super waspy. And then we'll just kind of go, yeah, he's one of the people fighting the system too, or he's kind of a maniac. He could have been, a little more blue collar, just a little rougher, lower middle class, i.e. working class, and all of a sudden you're like, and otherwise play it the same way, and it would have been a more interesting story. And so I think that was a bad call and hurt the story, portraying them that way.
Yeah. In a way, like, he's doing lines at the very start, and then you think, really, public defender gets, where is he getting that income? But I guess what he provides is that he's sort of like a chaotic, neutral presence that sort of nudges John Boyega's character over the line. I guess that's the main purpose of it.
But package him differently.
Yes,
that's just a bad call. Like, cause he already looks so preppy. Make him look a little rougher. Heck, even just say, the folks cut me off, or something to give us a reason other than, especially because so much of this almost is about, or lean into the fact that he's rich. Listen, I'm rich. I'll always be taken care of, but I do love a heist or something. Like it's almost like they don't have enough to explain his packaging. So change the packaging or give us a moment where we kind of go, okay, we now know why they're in each other's lives. Because there's just that little missing piece.
I mean, John Boyega's cast, he's a little rumpled. I mean, his suits fit well, but they're, verging on corduroy, sort of not quite as bad as in the night of, which was what's his face, the bowler on anyway,
that guy.
Yeah, no, the Italian actor John Turturro. So not quite as kind of stumble bummy as him, but he's still, he doesn't have the nicest cut suits. I mean, he's not sort of doing the modeling thing. He doesn't have the strut necessarily, and when he's off work, he's got the, baseball shirt on and the, the runners and things like that. But I get it.
Yeah. What did you think, going back to this, the so-called science fiction element, which is only hinted at in a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
And barely, you can't even say, hinted at within a scene that was doing something else. And kind of talked about, and I think that's, and I know I said I could have done without Tim Blake Nelson's performance. Like, I didn't, the only thing where I was, it was like, you have moments in a movie where you're like, it is safe to look away. Not because I'm frightened, but I want to catch up on what's on my phone or something. I don't need to pay attention to this, or nothing they're showing me is holding my attention. Maybe that's it. But what did you, do you see a way they could have made that idea, that presentation of like that Candide line about, hey, if this is the best of all possible worlds, what are the other ones like?
Mm.
You know, they introduced that idea, but they never really, I can't say it's ever really explored, is it? You know, do you see
No.
a way they could have salvaged that? Or I think if you ditch it, all of a sudden you lose a couple more scenes. The movie really becomes like more of a long episode of the Twilight, not even the Twilight Zone, just some crime
Yeah.
anthology.
Well, they used to do those in the 70s, just those one-shot crime shows, and or they would just have the rotating Macmillan and wife, and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's the hook. I think the whole movie is based on. I mean, the title is Naked Singularity, and it's kind of a brave act in the first place to put naked in the title.
DMG in the comments says he wasn't dressed appropriately in a movie with naked in the title.
Oh yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I just noticed that. But it's a whole thing, and it actually, I'll just quickly, I brought it up, and I was looking at it yesterday. Here's a little quick synopsis of what the notion is itself. It says, in general relativity, a naked singularity is a hypothetical gravitational singularity without an event horizon. Okay, make a movie. So, and I read it over a couple times. I'm not great with these abstractions myself, but I still, even after reading that and seeing this movie, I'm not sure that they're sort of talking about the same thing. They had that digital clock / thermometer that was showing 150 degrees. I didn't quite get that. Like I said before, I did dig the oddly placed power outages, which often changed what a character would do. And it's how Cassie ended up spending the night with Leah. Is that, while he was following her, the train stopped and they sort of bumped into each other because they said, get out, get
time to get out.
Disembark. There's no power. Your ride ends here. Yeah. So, and then she invites him into the apartment. So, and other things too, right?
Well,
when
it's also how Cassie gets away from
the cartel.
Craig.
Yes. Yeah.
After their night of passion.
Yeah.
So straight talk.
But so I don't know how you could have excised it. I think what it probably was the original reason, the original hook that the movie was based on, and they just cleaved a little bit of it off as they went along because it got in the way. Yeah. And that's just my suspicion. I haven't read the book, but books by nature are a little more, muscular than the movies themselves. So, and there's space and time to do stuff.
And you know what? This movie's still good enough that I'm suddenly interested in getting the book. Like, just to kind of go, I wonder how they explored that.
Yeah, well, I was curious too. Yeah. Because there's obviously a core of something a little bit deeper and more mysterious here. And I don't fully, they didn't fully let that grow, I don't think.
Yeah.
And as I said before, it's not an exact match, but I think Terry Gilliam is one of those people that does this kind of thing well, where they take the day-to-day kind of mundane stuff, and then, they introduce some kind of deep-seated horror or fantastical elements.
Yeah.
And so they're smashing together, right in the heart of New York City, for instance. And this is sort of not unlike this movie, but his are usually a little more they're a little more gestated, I guess, for lack of a better term.
What do you think of, what do you think about the way they wrapped up the heist? Wrapped up all the stories?
15 million is a lot of money, and for them to get away that easy, I'm still thinking that Cassie would have left fingerprints everywhere. Like everyone sort of gets away in the end. Like the three, the protagonist and the girl and his buddy, they all get away with it, and they just sort of meet at the waterfront. They're just carrying millions of dollars around in attaché in these leather cases, And they even leave I would not leave the car. Like, she's got the car there about 20 feet away with the money in it. I'd be like, what are you doing? But, yeah, so, I mean, it was a little bit casual, maybe aiming that high. And a black guy and a tall white guy took 15 millions from the Hasidic Jewish community. There would be people after them, I would think, so maybe that's another fantastical element to this. But, the cartel would be after them. The Hasidic sect would be after them. Well, Craig was killed, so he wouldn't be after him. But, they got away a little easy. I suspect that 15 million was maybe a little bit much.
14.
Was it 14? Okay.
14.
Okay.
no, that's.
Was that 15
Damn it,
minus
Jim.
one for her? So did they all get 5 each then? I guess they each got
it's 14
5?
million. That was whatever. Who cares? It's bad enough that I brought up. I got pedantic. It's it's actually 14 million, but
yeah. Well, I think it was 15, and they were going to give her one, so it would have been 14 to Craig. So that's what I was thinking. But
they were talking about 14 million early in the film. Yeah,
that's a very specific. But that's such a high number, and I can't believe there wasn't much blowback, because Cassie stays where he is, doing the job where he is, and he's rolled this into a legal defense fund of some sort that we're led to believe that he does good work with. So yeah. I mean, that's kind of a neat ending.
For myself, Jim, I thought, actually, because as we got near the end, it's like, oh, well, okay, it's starting to blow up in their face, but it doesn't, the movie's tone doesn't have this, oh, this is all going to end badly. Like, although maybe it should, I'm not sure, getting to the meaning later, but I was like, Jim, for me, I liked this ending. I liked it's like, how are they going to get out of this jam then? How does this not blow up? How does this not end with all 3 of them fucking dead?
Yeah.
As they learn, rightly so, crime does not pay. It's not as easy as they think, First of all, they didn't steal money from the Jewish guys. Jewish guys were looking at the drugs because that's what they were buying with the millions of dollars, right? And then all of a sudden everything gets shot up. Those idiots are wearing masks, right? The Hasidic Jewish people run, then they go after the 2 idiots who the police don't really know.
Mm-hmm. They're so low time.
Yeah. And the deal they made with Leah is such that it's like, listen, you give us the buyers. That's who we give a shit about, right? Mm-hmm. So then they get those 2 guys. The only 2 guys who know who John Boyega really is, like, other than the cops who are like, hey, as long as this all plays out and we get we get to get the bad guys, our deal is good, right? So you've got, so those guys are dead. And then the cartel guys now, and this is the one weakness, and I think it was a mistake. But he already, I don't know. He already knew the big bad guy, who we only meet. And this is, I think, also a story problem, Jim, but a smaller one. They got bigger fish to fry in this story. But we meet him, and there he is in the car, because of course the police have said, yeah, you paid $60,000 for an auction vehicle. You're sitting here, and he's like, you can't hold me, until all of a sudden the phone is back on and they find the vehicle with all the drugs in it. So the cops are happy now. And all the guys in the vehicle, so it's not like, as far as Gollum is concerned, the only 2 guys that they could find out who, well, they're dead. And it's not like they're going to call up, hey, we got 2 dead bodies. assuming that they didn't just throw them in that little car and she's going to get rid of them later or whatever. Yeah, right now, like, even, of course, we're sort of counting on that she really does go to ground. She just disappears, right? But yeah, all these cartel guys are all going to jail because they've been caught with millions of dollars worth of dope. They're hooped. Gollum has been ripped off, but by Ed Skrein, and then just a couple of random nobodies that nobody knows. Like,
that's a good point. Yeah.
So I actually thought, it's like, oh, this isn't bad. In any of these heist movies, there's always problems. There's always things if you look too deep, but I was like kind of impressed. It's like, hey, we do get a happy ending. And I even enjoyed the moment where, because what's interesting is that you're given an impression, maybe a little bit, where it's like, or is John Boyega, is his character going to join with her to do the big ripoff? No, he's going to rip her off too. The poor person, which is, and now mind you, which is also kind of, because usually this woman is put in this character is a femme fatale who lures the good lawyer into it. Nope. It just tries to screw her, and she's actually quite sincere. She's lying, but always with a good from her perspective reason. And then at the end they have a nice little moment. And it's like, yeah, okay, I did try to screw you out of your million, and just, yeah, you did. Oh, well, anyway, I'm out of here. Make the best of your second chance. Like they have that nice moment without any more romance, was like, I actually was like, kind of, that's a nice, what could have been bad, what so many movies F up. No, she drives away, and not in a, what could have been. No, that was the only way it could play out anyway. She can't stick around him and survive. If he's found with her, he's dead. This is the only way this can play out.
And we've been told that she's part of the foster system, so has no reason to come back too. So that's kind of
absolutely, she's clean. Yeah. And so it is actually one of the highlights of what's a film I liked, but not like, I'm not going greatness. I liked it, and I was impressed with the way they ended it. Anything else you want to add on story? And I think want to catch up on the chat.
Sure. I have to take care of one thing, so I'm just going to 2 minutes. I'll be right back. But okay. I think that covers it for me for story. I'll be right back though.
Okie doke.
1 sec.
All right, folks. Well, that's happening. Here. We'll mute Jim's feed so it, folks. This is the time to catch up with the chat. Bear with me. So what do we got here? First of all, DMG says, no wonder you didn't see Naked Singularity in Winnipeg. The global box office worldwide was 9,000. Not 90,000, not 900,000, $9,431. That's right. Thanks, DMG, for that one. And apparently the Las Vegas Knights win. VGK wins. VGK. What am I missing here? And there's obviously something I'm not tuning into. What else? Jesus from the Big Lebowski. DMG asks, how 2019 is this movie? People wearing masks or bank robbers? It is, folks, everybody in the chat, DMG makes a great comment here. When do we start? Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's take that off, though. When do you think we're going to start seeing movies that are how do I put this? Seeing movies that are built around the I'm having a tough one trying to capture this. Seeing movies that are starting to get wrapped around the using COVID-19 as a plot point. You know, the heist where they take advantage of the fact that everyone's wearing masks. You know, I can see a lot of crime movies where they start doing that. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Okay. Oh, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. There's another word I was missing. So the apparently good night in the NHL for the Las Vegas Knights, Golden Knights. Thank you, my friend. Oh my goodness, my arms have been cut off. Why don't we? Oh, I believe our good friend is back, Mr. Chaboyko. Is it time? I'm not sure if there's, I don't know. I got nothing else to add on story.
No.
Is it time to maybe before I've caught up a bit with the chat. I did ask the question, and I'll put this bug in your ear, my friend. When do you think we're going to start seeing, and it was a comment DMG made in the chat, but I'm wondering, when do you think we're going to start seeing heist movies in particular, but movies using COVID-19 as a plot point? We've kind of seen them. We've kind of seen stuff that was obviously in development. They're like, oh, we should shoot that now because it's relevant now. But when do you think we'll start seeing movies where they really are kind of going, hey, this is a COVID-19 story? You know?
Yeah. It's interesting with masks and everything. It's interesting how people are still recognizable with masks on. Like I bump into people all the time I haven't seen in years, just walking down the street, and they're like, hey, how do you recognize me? But, you know, that could be used as something, obviously. I don't know. You know, there was a show in the States. I can't remember what it's called. I don't even know if it's still on. It was about an African-American female judge, and they did it like COVID. They leaned into the COVID storyline pretty heavily. It was called Your Honor or something like that. I can't remember. There's been a few other treatments of that. SNL had a couple episodes last year where they did specific skits about it, but nothing like major. I suspect, you know, you'll get those little seeds of amateur film. You know, they'll probably start coming out this year, or you know, they might have been started, but you know, I think in 20 years there'll be a little resurgence. You know how you get that 20-year bump of nostalgia. So in the 70s they made Happy Days about the 50s. They did that 70s show in the 90s. But I think, you know, maybe in about 2040 there'll be those my COVID childhood or something to that effect.
Oh yeah.
You know,
the family sitcom where it's all they've been being trapped in the house with your crazy relatives. Damn, why has no one done that already?
And you know, in the next couple seasons of Broadway, there might be some plays that come out about you know, isolation and modern life and that kind of thing. And
DMG says Bull with George something or other is doing the same thing with masks. Your comment.
Bull is that about a jury coordinator, basically in the States, I think, if that's the one I'm thinking of. But I mean, we'll definitely see some. I remember them talking about a Spike Lee movie coming out a couple of years after 9/11, saying that this was the first 9/11, the true first 9/11 movie, where they incorporated into the drama, and they had characters that were dealing with it. It wasn't directly about that, but it had seeds that sprouted from that event. So it might take a while. We'll see some immediately. I think, you know, people are going to be stimulated creatively by any kind of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised. But in terms of a major movie, like if you're we're thinking about heist movies, or you know, if the next James Bond is going to have to deal with that, or you know, it's interesting. They wear masks all the time in Asia. When I lived in Japan in the 90s, masks all the time. Not everybody, but there were people that were, especially during flu season, were very, very dedicated to it. So that
Yeah.
might have already been used as plot points,
Well,
in
and it
other
could
things.
also be just, I'm thinking sitcoms because they have to write so much.
Mhm.
And they're so, yeah. And one of the things DMG's referred in the chat, he's talking about how the Wonder Years is being remade.
Yep.
And Night Court is coming back. Melissa
Ah.
Roch is playing Harry Anderson and Marky Post, their characters.
Wow.
The judge and the defender playing their daughter, because of course they got married at the end of the show.
Oh yeah.
That being that's the gag. Marky Post recently passed away.
And Harry Anderson
a few years
too,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
So R.I.P.
Yeah. Okay. Jim, I think before we move into the meaning and everything, well, first of all, it is time to beg our folks for a thumbs up. Not to mention a subscribe. And then last, but certainly not least, would you please
Right.
ringy-ding that bell?
I got the seasonal ones, and then I got the traditional. Seasonal,
Awesome.
Traditional. Only here will you hear different kinds of bells.
Yeah. Now, of course, I've already told everyone, but it bears is worthy of a reminder. Wish I had something to put up. But yeah, tomorrow, myself, Jim, DMG from Brian from Dragon Movie Guy, and our friend Catherine will be getting together tomorrow evening to talk about the 79th Golden Globe Awards are still going on January 9th, 2022, live streamed from their website.
Wow.
But 8 a.m. Central Daylight Time, 6 a.m. Pacific Time, I guess it'd be 9 a.m. Eastern Time, the nominations are going to be announced for it. And we're going to have some fun breaking that down tomorrow evening. So please join us. It should be good for a laugh. Now, Jim, I'll hand it over to you. Why don't you tell us what's our next movie? And this will be the last movie we do before Christmas on the 19th there.
True.
What are we doing?
We're doing Spider-Man. I'm saving my classmates again. No, I'm just kidding. It's Spider-Man No Way Home. Featuring the young more English people playing Americans. Tom Holland, Benedict Cumberbatch, Zendaya, and probably a few surprises, I imagine. But
I suspect. Yeah. I'm wondering, Jim, you had referred to earlier about our current movie, The Naked Singularity, a lot of English actors. I suspect it's not an issue of supply. It's they're cheaper. They are the English actors in, let's say, American film. Are the Russians, the Finns, the Swedes of the NHL. You know, they're cheaper. It's cheap top flight, but cheap labor. You know, there's always that Canadian premium. There's no you're paying a discount when you fly someone over from England, even if they live there.
Yeah. I suspect a couple of the cast members actually live here currently, or on this side of the Atlantic. But it's interesting though, and they often do pretty good American accents, or just they do that straight kind of hard R kind of thing, and they're off to the races.
DMG making a bit of a. Oh, let me get that off. Making a bit of a smart remark about how Ricky Gervais is already mocking the proceedings for the Golden Globes, and of course Tina Fey and Amy Poehler are already drunk hosting it. I got to admit, it is interesting. Even as I was looking, doing some just kind of poking around, making sure my times are right and everything for the Golden Globes. Jim, I gotta say, I mean, like, well, you know what? I'm gonna save that bon mot my little cheap shot, my let's what do we call them? Hot take.
Hot take. Sorry.
For tomorrow. But anyway, let's move on. Let's get into let's talk about the meaning.
Sure.
Ostensibly, this thing, it's allegedly about like in that Candide statement, that, and there's some nonsense about the multiverse and, hey, what if there's a million versions of us and it's almost like we're taking the Rick and Morty premise seriously. But that, like, are we presented with a choice where it's like, are we in the best of all worlds? Or are we in one of the crappier ones? And yeah, I gotta say, Jim, I think it falls flat on that, except that they decide to have a happy ending for these protagonists. But I can't say I'm walking away going, wow, that was the philosophical stakes were high and they really paid it off. And that is not to say, I mean, I've watched some pretty solid MCU movies that either A, don't set up philosophical stakes, Shang-Chi, or set them up and don't pay them off at all. See Avengers Infinity War / Endgame. So it doesn't, but still, like, I'm kind of walking away with, well, what was the point of this movie? As much as I liked it.
Yeah.
What's it saying? What do you think?
What
does the chat think?
At its most basic point, I think it's that, the idea that was most popularized by the Community episode involving the roll of the dice and the good timeline and the bad timeline.
Yeah.
And this is giving it a bit more serious treatment. But it's funny, since that episode came out about 8 years ago or whenever it did come out, people talk about it a lot. I mean, primarily on Twitter, but
remedial chaos theory.
Yes, yeah, with rolling to see who goes for the pizza, basically, and each one of them has a distinct outcome, and some of them lead to bad places, and some of them lead to good places. Yeah, super well handled. Like, and another reason why Community was a work of genius. For most of its run, but I think it's as basic as that. I think there's perhaps an original meaning, a more complicated, nuanced meaning in there. Probably still exists. Well, probably
not in the book. From the
book. Yeah, and that maybe got like little. You're planing a piece of wood, and you're like, oh, a little more, a little more, a little more, and
oh wait, it's loose in the hole now. I played too much.
Start with a rectangle and you end up with a shim, and I think that's sort of maybe what happened there. Yeah, and I suspect the meaning got lost. Like I said, I was going to sort of do a big deep dive today, but there was a slight football game here this afternoon, and a few other things going on, but I think it really got lost in the shuffle. Other than that, again, it's the choices you make, right? Or the things that define you. I think in this case, John Boyega's Cassie character is given some choices, and given some obstacles, and is not having a great run, and he decides to sort of strike out a little bit and take a
roll the dice, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it worked out in this universe, but perhaps not in a million others. Who knows? But in terms of the meaning, I think it got lost a bit.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and it's interesting. That's a great that remedial dice theory, that Community one, where they show us. They create the limits of the gag right in the die. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying they have to rip off Community, but maybe they could have done something to kind of go, hey, there's a million tangents. But I think we've seen this. Other movies have done it to
Sliding
varying
doors and
degrees.
things like
Sliding
that.
doors.
Yeah.
Isn't Closer one of those gags?
Mm.
For some reason, I think it is. I'm not on.
Yeah.
But you're right. Sliding doors, like it's been done. What if, one of, I still remember it. Myself, couple of friends, people people in the chat may know. Richard L. and Katie, Katie Fowler, I invited them over when that Bandersnatch, Black Mirror Bandersnatch came out. And what I did was, it's like, okay, at each decision, you will get the remote. So, and we passed it around and you got to do whatever the hell you wanted. Like you couldn't try and lobby or bully someone into something else. And so all of a sudden it was this, we kind of played with the idea. I think that Bandersnatch was an interesting way of trying to make a movie and trying to bring in that element. It wasn't entirely successful either. We had fun, but but I think part of it is because we say, here is the decision stick. You now will,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like I'd like to see and maybe I'm not sure they never really followed through on that. They never really gave us heck, I would have even appreciated the beginning instead of Cassie and his neighbor of John Boyega and Tim Blake Nelson talking about it. What if the conversation, instead of the whacked out neighbor, or maybe the whacked out neighbor comes later as he's going, my idiot friend was talking about this. What if, not Craig, what is this buddy's name?
Oh, Dane.
Dane. What if Dane was the one who brought the idea up right at the beginning? Because you have a nifty little line that should have had way more impact. At the beginning, well, what about the other guys? I wonder, how should we feel about them? And then at the end, fuck them. F all your alternate versions of you or your possibles of you. Fuck those guys. That line, but it's delivered well. It's kind of a cool, it's a line and it's kind of a cool line. I still enjoyed it, but it doesn't hit because it wasn't set up properly. It was barely set up. Other than that, I don't know. They kind of introduced a bit of hey, there's an element of choice, and this may be one of the themes. Her character, the Leah character, is presented to us as someone who not just makes bad choices, but kind of chooses to let people in instead of going out to find people to bring in. Even to a point, and this is one, I'll give a little iota. You referred to the purse and taking the purse. I do think that there she was flirting with John Boyega. She was flirting with him, and she left her purse out there with the piece of paper sticking out.
Yeah.
To
entrap him.
Well, that may have been the red herring for us. Because in the end, she's not a femme fatale, which is one interesting choice they made. But that she's still doing the same. She's not going, hey, I lied to the cops. I'd like you to help me. Like she is not being as active an agent as she could be. She's still kind of unwilling to go, I really do, and I think I could do it with you, and you should help me do this. Or she's not willing to put her cards on the table. She leaves the cards. It's I'm going to go to the bathroom now. I'll just put my cards down here, all higgly-piggly. would never be able to tell if someone looked at them.
Don't look at my Scrabble tiles.
Yeah. That anyone could look at.
Mm-hmm.
See you in a minute. So it usually takes me 5 minutes, you know, like, so that I would give it that, but yeah, you're 100% right in all the other criticisms, but yeah, there is a theme of choices that we're making in life. And maybe even a theme, like how we sort of weasel around the choice, maybe. And how we pretend we're making choices when we're just reacting to what's coming without trying to, like, at least swim against the current for a bit or something. I don't know, you know.
Well, no, it's a good point. I mean, I watched Miller's Crossing a bunch of years ago, and so much comes at you, and it's so full of things happening. And I thought, well, what? It's just like a big momentum ball rolling down a hill. It's like, can anyone have changed anything they did to affect a different outcome? And I've yet to watch it since, but and that's not a criticism. It's just like that's me needing to watch something again because I'm not bright enough to take it all in at the first go round. But I mean, it's one of those things like, where's the agency here, and what was the decision what's an alternate decision that could have been made? I think there is a point where somebody does, I think a counselor or something says to Leah about letting people in. Is that what you were talking about? Like,
I don't think it was a counselor. It was the moment they're having
bail.
No, it was not bail. It was when her and Cassie first meet in the office, right? Because Dane comes up, oh, you got to take this, but she requested you, blah 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 blah. So he's got to rush there because apparently there's texting, except for the point where I was looking for you. We see you guys texting each other. Really? Not that one, but sure, I get it. Whatever. It's not, not terrible. But it's there that she's like, you're always telling me I got to choose people instead of letting them in or something like that. Like she's, because how does she get into this mess? She swipes right, which is also, as we saw, people in the bar making choices. Swipe left. Oh, the idiot I met who was totally greasy and was shiftily trying to get a vehicle. Swipe right, like.
Yeah.
So I think choice is they just weren't able to draw on that. Okay, choices into different realities or are choices predestined because we're always in the best version.
Oh yeah.
But that's me doing a lot of thinking after the fact. I can't say that the movie laid that out. It's almost as we discuss it further, we're describing missed opportunities.
Yes, yeah.
Or maybe where they're trying to go. We don't know. Movie ain't that clear.
Yeah. I mean, 90 minutes, I know there's probably some budgetary things going on, but it probably could have used another couple scenes or another 5 to 10 minutes or something to flesh out some of the things that were obviously, they were going in the direction of,
Although who knows, maybe they're all on the cutting floor and they're like, oh, this kills the movie. Let's just kind of make it more of a heist and we'll have a nice little fun little movie. Because I did enjoy myself,
Oh yeah.
Oh well. Anything like I think we've already critiqued the tropes, the storytelling tropes that they used especially with Leah. And maybe, I don't know, could they have done more with like some of these, like there is another stated, like just bald stated theme when he's getting dressed down by his boss in the public defender's office. It says, we're all on the same side. And there was a missed opportunity. So it was, well, maybe we shouldn't, because, and the way I interpreted that scene, Jim, was, that idea that not just the public defenders, but the Canadian in me is the Crown and the judges, because that's certainly the way they do see, oh, we're all on the same side. We're all just trying to do justice. And he is having a moment of, well, I don't know if we are actually, like, I mean, and even you realize it's like, no, if you're really on the side of your client, you're not on everybody else's side. These people are being ground by a system that is systemically unjust, but they hint at it and then moving on,
Yeah. And, in New York too is well known for its just flaky judges and amongst other things, there is a podcast that's all about, I don't want to look for it now. It'll be too distracting, but convictions that shouldn't have, the Central Park Five and all these prosecutors and stuff, they go on to riches no matter what stunts they pull.
Oh,
and they let people
never held responsible.
Never held responsible. And they go on to, these people that get arrested. It allows the actual offender to go on and actually kill and rape other people. Yeah. And these prosecutors are never.
Nor the cops who got fixated on. Nope. I was. Don't ask me why I was rewatching this movie. I was rewatching Wrath of Man when I should have been watching the movie we were talking about. I obviously did eventually.
Yes.
But I was rewatching Wrath of Man. One of the actors, she's an Irish actress, another low budget. DMG says it's the British accents. Americans love British accents, even if they're not using them. Anyway, go down the click hole, and then it's like, oh, she was in this British television thing playing an undercover cop who is trying to entrap someone who the police are convinced did a horrific deed. Don't need to go into the details. Anyway, it was based on a well-known case, and this is how disturbing, which means it's not just New York City. This is London Metropolitan Police.
Oh, yeah.
This is just the high-level capture. They try and entrap this guy. She is disturbing in her, hey, it'd be really hot. They cannot get the guy to admit it, even at the point where it's like they're just taking advantage of a lonely heart. It reminds me of that sick in Edmonton who used the idea of, hey, we're making a movie about this to make his own Hostel. Or, one of those torture porn, except he really kills the poor guy. Strictly exploiting the guy's loneliness. So anyway, the police do this. They still end up charging him. In the end, it all falls apart because, of course, it does, because it's such obvious, shameless, single-minded entrapment and everything. Meanwhile, and then even after he's exonerated the lead cop, because they all do, it's like, well, listen, we don't really know, and I bet you, people will still know he did it. Then, of course, DNA, from the only thing that seems to keep, not guilty people, or at least get them out of jail a decade later. And this has all happened in the 2000s, Jim. This is not from the 70s. Anyway, DNA exonerates him, and then further advancements in DNA, they actually find the guy who, of course, the police had tips on during the time. If they had even followed up on anything, could have caught him before he killed another woman and her fucking child.
Yeah.
This is endemic, and part of it is because it's grinding poor people who can't afford an effective defense. It's grinding, this first poor sucker. And there's a missed opportunity for this film, maybe, to explore that.
An obsession with results, running the justice system like a business, is not the way to do it. But in terms of the meaning, it was obviously using the criminal justice system as as a sort of as the way to get to what they were going for. So I don't know how committed they were to the meeting. I mean, the first third of it is pretty much him going up against this judge that was pretty hostile to him and all the tricks.
Well, and not just that, also like a total, here, let's just crank out another unit of justice. Hey, it doesn't work that way. Chinese guy goes back in jail. So what if he gets the living shit kicked out of him?
Yeah.
I do. And this, maybe give the film a bit more credit on this level. Maybe that is, they get this happy ending. Even to a point where, because she does say early on, think of how that could change people's lives. We see why he did it. And all of a sudden he's like, don't worry, I've got you. Because that's what he's always said. He has always been committed to his clients. I think that at the end where we see him back in court doing his thing, although for a moment I'm like, oh, are we in a different reality? Oh no, we're in the same reality.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I better not do that bullshit. I think that may have been the, here is a best possible world where he isn't corrupted. It doesn't all go to shit. He's not dead or half dead in jail as the woman gets away with the skis bag because she's a femme fatale and everything was, David Mamet, the Spanish prisoner BS. Or any other con, right? It's not a con. It is a heist movie. And it ends where he's like, he gets to go. It's like, yep, I am willing and I am now going to use my resources. Money rules, another theme of the film. Money is might. Is something referred to where he's like, yeah, well, I got money now. I can level the playing field. And so maybe that's part of the, now I'm like I'm smiling a little more. It's got it now has a couple of meaning and story wins. Maybe this is why I liked it, because I was emotionally invested. I was happy it was a happy ending.
And there's charm to it too. It's kind of neat. It's got other aspects to it. I like the blackouts, and that was kind of fun and chaotic and that sort of thing. But there's something definitely here. It would have been nice to pull a little bit more out of it, but it's a good little watch.
Jim, apropos of nothing other than our talking about British accents and British people in films, DMG says, to get around copyright law, I want to register a trademark for Doctor Whom and then reshoot all of Doctor Who's episodes. But Doctor Whom connects people's corrects. This is Doctor Whom's thing. He corrects people's syntax, even if he's grammatically wrong. Well, on that comic note,
let's not forget Inspector Spacetime on Community, which is the community version of Doctor Who.
Yeah,
is that universe's version of Doctor Who? So
that's right. Jim, why don't we've only got a few minutes left, and we did start late. So, what do you think? What about Mr. Price? That was his name, wasn't it? No, Chase Palmer.
Chase Palmer. Small sample size. I'd like to see more from him. I mean, this was okay. I'll give him a pass. I'll give him a C or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't. There was aspects, like I said, nice little oddball movie. Aspects of it probably should have been beefed up a bit, but first movie, right? So,
beginning, middle, and end. I liked almost everyone.
Got a nice chaotic start too. That sort of the one that following people into the building and there's fights breaking out and all kinds of things. Like it immediately sort of sets the chaotic stage. So there's things that were handled nicely.
Well, I am praising the end. It's like what could have. these points where, and I don't think he's maybe he is a first-time director.
First movie, but I think he's done other stuff.
Yeah, it is his directorial debut, according to Wikipedia, that paragon of probity. For first time out, he does not fall in the trap a lot of other first-time directors do. Slow pacing, too philosophical, too chatty.
Too much, overstuffed.
Yeah. An ending that just falls flat. It doesn't do that. And, the good guys get a win. There's at least, not saying that it was a true class conscious film, but at least some kind of exploration of hey, what happens? The less money you have, how awful the justice system can be. And we have our own Winnipeg examples of that. David Milgaard was just a traveling kind of a weirdo, but no, or not David Milgaard, Sofano.
Oh, Thomas Sofano, yeah.
Thomas Sofano. Just one of those weirdos, harmless weirdo, Police decided to pick him. And it wasn't until a kid of his insistence on his innocence and the kid of a rich family went, Anyway, I'm giving Chase a pass. Yeah. Wish I could make it more patronizing. Yeah, Chase gets a pass from me, and I'd even give it a C+ or maybe a B-. I'd give him that. All right. What about final thoughts, sir?
Nice. Like I said, nice little oddball movie. They didn't. The Leah character actually slept with two characters in this, and they didn't make a big deal of it. So it wasn't another point I was going to bring up about Leah was that there's no slut shaming. I felt here,
no,
which was kind of interesting.
You're absolutely right. She had
avoided that
sexual agency.
Yes. Yeah. So other than that, I think we covered most of it. I wrote a bunch of notes down, but most of them have to do with story. Oh, I was going to say, I said imaginary character at one point, because I thought one of them might turn out to be maybe Tim Blake Nelson turned out to be an imaginary character, but I've been on an imaginary character kick lately. So I was wrong. I was wrong on that point, but yeah.
Okay.
How about you?
For myself, I do want, first of all, this may explain why this film at least worked on the fundamentals. DMG is noting that Mr. Palmer wrote it. He wrote that screenplay.
Okay.
So, definitely is, no story at least. You don't get paid those bucks. You don't get that kind of feature work without at least making a script that probably is great until the director gets a hold of it.
Yeah.
Let's fix this now. Let's put my stamp on it. For myself, I think I've come out at the end of this a little more appreciation for the film. I'm not changing my initial assessment. I liked it. It has some noteworthy moments. I like what you said about Leah's sexual agency, and I've said that before. You can be, even the way they kind of capture it, where she's little empty, meaningless sex, but it's not. Although, that guy. Not the one to swipe right to, but it's not. I at the same time, even though she did swipe right on a douchebag, it wasn't presented. It's like, oh, you're just too hoary to be worthy of anything. That at the end, she's like, okay, you got to go. I've had my fun. Bye-bye. Why are you creeping around my stuff? Like she did, and even as we discover why, like it, that's a tough thing with his character. Like, I mean, I think it's like play it a couple different ways in a couple different scenes, and all of a sudden we'd be not just enjoying her performance of it, but loving the character. It's like she's just too goofy at the wrong time, there's just, something just a little wrong because there's so much good there as well. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's about it. For me, I guess it's that time to, say our goodbyes to our chatters. Of course, we are shy, especially of our Canadian folks, because it was a Grey Cup, a lot of Grey Cup parties. But, of course, Jim is too committed to the best chat on the internet. He showed up on time. I suspect, thank God, overtime didn't go too long. Otherwise, it could have been. But
of course, it goes.
I would have been
overtime.
doing the show long. But let's say, first of all, DMG, thanks very much for coming out. You're the man,
Yes.
Brian. And Ahmed, Jelly Duck, good to see you here. And you know what? Griselda Day, the bot, Griselda Day.
Yes.
Let's say thanks for coming out to Griselda.
Beep, boop, borp, beep, merp, beep.
Yeah,
Whatever robot language.
I think that's about it. Until Jim. Well, stick around. We'll chat in the green room. But
Certainly.
DMG, we'll see you tomorrow night. Follow up with you. Oh my God, we got another one. Sandra Snow. another. Let's just straight up report this as unwanted content, unwanted commercial content, or spam.
It's Olivia Cooke's fake account.
I'm saying Vrar and
she was great.
Okay. Great to see you guys, and we will catch you all. We'll catch you all next week when we talk about. What the heck were we talking about again, Jim?
Spider-Man, Man of Spiders.
That's right. Yeah, we'll see you all when we bring up. Where the heck is that? All right, there we are.